I'm Sarah Russell.
I'm J.Q. Walker.
Mint, and we are
The Neurodivergent Report, a research-based podcast by and for neurodivergent brains.
In each episode, we'll explore topics relating to neurodiversity and coping strategies by reviewing the literature and discussing current topics.
We will also have interview episodes where we sit down with experts in the field and listeners like you, with the hope that together we can all learn to heal in community.
However you are able to engage, thank you for being here.
The Cardi B trial? No.
No, I didn't even know it was
She's-
happening.
I've been too busy, but I know.
Listen,
and I want to dive into it. Tell me.
By one of her former bodyguards or somebody who got in a fight with her or something like that. And basically they have her on the stand like one day to the next day, and the lawyer is doing everything that they can to discredit this woman and to make her look ghetto, even going so far as to be like, do you even know what ghetto means?
Yeah.
And then one day he was like, so Miss, I see you have long blonde hair today, and yesterday you had short black hair. Can you
Yeah.
even tell us what is your real hair color? And she was like, it's a wig? I'm sorry. It's a
Yeah.
wig?
Yeah.
Wait,
Yeah.
hello?
Oh my God.
And I don't even know if it's
Look,
a white man,
Cardi B is amazing. It probably
but
is.
it does matter. Anyway,
I mean,
I wanted to put that in
it's
because
ridiculous how, I mean, it stops being about like the case and more about discrediting the person. And especially
Exactly.
women, how they use it. It's ridiculous.
the
I've been
criminal
seeing it a lot
justice
with
system
famous
is
trials. And I'm sure, and
Well, I was going to say, I don't know if you're familiar with Jasmine Crockett, and she's a senator or congressperson, but her and Marjorie Taylor Greene are always going back and
yes,
forth, and they're always using
box
like,
built body. Yeah.
yes,
He snapped back so fast. I love her.
I loved it.
Because
Loved
you can be eloquent and have extensions. I could be smart and love pink. Screw you, you know? Yeah, she was
Exactly.
amazing. I love her so much. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, it was perfect. This difference of understanding between cultures and how they're different, being biracial, multiracial, I should say. I have multiple families, and it's insane when I think about how I have to live in between all of these different spaces. All of my families, none of them do the same things. We don't have the same cultures. Wearing a wig, wearing a hairpiece is not a part of my Asian culture, but it is a part of my Jamaican culture. And it's just really fascinating hearing like out in the wild when people talk about these things, because all of our cultures are starting to blend into one another, and we're starting to see each other more. And I think it's really important, but it's fascinating to understand how wildly different our like self-care
Yeah.
routines are. You know?
Yeah. Like, I'm pretty sure white men don't moisturize. That's a hot take. That's a hot take, guys. I'm pretty sure.
that is one of the kindest
Um,
things I think you could say about the hygiene of white men. I have seen some horror stories. I don't even, yeah,
uh,
I'm going to stop right there because then we're going to.
But that's a great segue because you mentioned your multi-ethnic background. I'm sure that is something that pours into your practice and who you are. So can you tell us a little bit about who you are?
Yes, I am Rebecca Irby. My grandmothers, so I have a Dutch Indonesian grandmother, I have a Dutch grandfather, I have a Jamaican and Mohawk grandfather, and a Jamaican grandmother. All of that equals I look Hispanic. And
Yeah.
that's what and that's so I don't sound Hispanic, but I look it at points in time, depending on how I wear my hair that day. So most of my life has been people asking me, like, literally, what are you? And just for our audience out there, that is not a nice way to ask somebody about their ethnicity.
No.
Don't
We
ever
call
ask
it a
somebody, what are you?
microaggression or a macroaggression. Wait, yeah, I forget which one.
Yeah.
It's Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It's called a
Very
micro,
bad.
but I like to think of it as macro. But yes,
Very big
it's just people
problem.
not understanding how to talk to others. And like I can appreciate that you're inquisitive, but
Mhm.
often it comes off as I don't know what you are. I don't know what ethnicity you are, so I don't know how to treat you. And
Mhm.
that's the underlying part that isn't very often spoken about. And that's where I really love to play. I get to be in this liminal space, always in
Yeah.
the in between, and I force people to really come to terms with what's inside of them. I'm like, "Well, why are you asking? Why would you like to know?" Like, what does that have to do with anything right now? What ethnicity I am? And it
That is
makes
so
people
true.
very uncomfortable in a really kind of fun way for me.
Mhm. The
You made me
questioning.
realize why I find it fun. Because I never understood why I like to play on that, but now I know. Because sometimes we do things and we don't understand, but thank you for making me understand that. I think because you feel
Mhm.
like you have the upper hand in
Yes.
understanding that person's psyche.
Well,
Yeah.
understanding their psyche, but also and it's different. Some people, they come up to me and they're like, "Oh my goodness, like this is beautiful. Like you've got great hair,
Yeah.
this, blah, blah." Like, what ethnicity are you? People who know and are able to ask, I'm a lot more open. It's when I'm confronted with people who you can tell that there's a specific reason that they're asking you.
Yeah.
And it's those types of interactions where I always find a way to feel grounded in who I am and my identity. And the fact that you don't know gives me the upper hand because you have no idea how to
Yeah.
respond and react to me.
All right. So I think that's such, I could go on and on in this conversation, but I need to know, we need to go into what you do
Yeah.
and
How
how
do
does
you
that connect to
bring that
neurodiversity? I would love to know.
out? Yeah.
Yes. Um, what do? I wear so many different hats, and I think that that is a neurodivergent feature of highly successful women who also happen to be neurodivergent. Um, I I started my career in education in teaching social skills. So, in doing research, it was a longitudinal study, eventually got picked up as a national study and then internationally. And our idea was that social skills, so things like compassion, empathy, communication, conflict resolution, things that require us to use our interpersonal skills, and there's a reason they're called skills, is because they are things that can be taught. And in the past, because we existed in communities, we existed in villages, there wasn't a need to teach social skills because it happened naturally. In this culture, specifically in American culture, which has been exported out to the rest of the world, in the form of the way that we do commerce and in the way that we educate our young people. It's become so individualistic that we have lost all of our capacity to understand what it means to be interpersonal. So, and this was back in the early 2000s. So, in
Wow.
2000,
Things
yeah.
have gotten way worse now. Yeah. Especially after the pandemic. People,
Oh no.
especially children now. Yeah.
Well, and that is another proof point. So our studies have continued. It started in the late 1900s when I went to college in 99. And the research and the understanding of these skills and the fact that they can be taught was really the cornerstone of all of my work and kind of the jumping off point for what I do now. And it was in understanding empathy and our ability to teach empathy and the fact that if we don't teach empathy that we don't have it, that is super critical. And also I am a big student of history and I really love
Oh, yeah.
to study war, which I know sounds odd because I'm all about
No, no,
peace
no.
and
I get
connection,
it.
but I am obsessed with war. That's one of when I was a child, all I wanted to read about was World War II. and just
Same.
trying to desperately understand this world that I was just thrown into, and like, it doesn't make any sense. But then once you start to look and find all of the patterns, it is people who don't feel good about themselves. So self-loathing that leads to horrific things like genocide. And our first
God.
instance of the word genocide, and when we think about that and who used it and how it came about, it always comes back to someone who hated themselves or hated a part of themselves because it wasn't accepted in society. And for me, once I realized that, it was like, interesting. If we could help people feel good about themselves and understand that we're interconnected and we're all the same anyway, there's no reason for all of this division. Like, that is the key to peace and the key to advancement, in my opinion. How we make a better world, how we advance all of the things that are issues right now on our planet: climate change, poverty, war, all of them require us to understand our interconnected.
That's amazing. And it makes sense to, in order to understand how to be at peace, to study war and to see how absurd it all is, and the root cause of it. And I think also for someone who's neurodivergent, pattern recognition is something I think that is delightful for us to see and
Yes.
understand and be like, this is how I can, like, we, if someone would listen, hopefully, but like, this is the pattern that I can see, that I know, and that gives us a sense of, okay, now I understand peace more. So I think it makes perfect sense to me that you would study those words.
Well, thank you. And I never put that together, the pattern recognition. And like, that is, now that you say that, and I was like, oh, wow, that is kind of the basis of all of the work that I do and
Yeah,
my
isn't it
recommendations
beautiful?
and my strategies. Like, oh,
It's a
thank you,
gift, and
brain.
yes, exactly, exactly.
Yes.
I love that.
Which is interesting to think about because as a child, being neurodivergent, and I grew up in the 80s and we did not have classifications like we do now. We didn't have supports like we do now.
Did you
It was
also
basically,
did you also grow up in Detroit?
I did not. I grew up in, and thank you for asking. I grew up in New Jersey, in northern New Jersey, a place called Montclair. And it was actually at the time one of the best school systems in the country. And I say that to say because the education that I received was incredible, but boy, did we have to fight for it. And at that time in the 80s and 90s, if you had issues and you were put into special education, you basically don't graduate with a degree. You graduate with a high school completion. So, like, yeah, you were here, you showed up every day, but you don't have any of the skills to actually do anything in the world. And I had severe dyslexia, which they also did not have the language for that when I was in school. So it was fighting with teachers constantly to be, well, my mother, I should say, fighting with teachers constantly to be like, my
Yeah.
daughter's really smart. Like, no, you're not going to put her in this random room and like give her nothing to do all day. Like, she's going to stay in those classes. And my mother actually took me out of school for 2 years, for 7th and 8th grade, and homeschooled me because the middle school that I was in, they didn't agree. They were like, "No, she's gonna be in the resource room." And my mom was like, "Yeah, no." We tried it out for my 6th grade year. They put me in the resource room for I think 2 or 3 classes a day, and I was doing everybody's homework. Like, it, it was great for me because I'm a big helper and I loved it. So I was like, oh, I'm here. I get to be everyone's teacher. My mother is like, what on earth is happening? Like, absolutely not. Um, for me, it was crazy because it was the first time I like had friends in school.
Oh,
And then she was like, we're leaving. And yeah, that's a whole other story. we can get it
Well,
to.
good
Yeah.
for her for
Wow.
squashing those people-pleasing tendencies. That's really not the role we see Asian moms take mostly. So, good for her.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yes.
You
She
know,
was
I'm
the
just
full-on
thinking about
tiger
it.
mom
Wow.
in that instinct. Like, just like,
I love
Just
that.
to protect.
Just hearing you, I got this pressure. Yeah, I was like, oh my God, that must have been so difficult. And so I have so much respect for her, even though I have not met her, because she's doing the work that we want the public sector to, or and private to do for kids, and that we're slowly actually advocating for that. We have advocates now. We interviewed an advocate actually recently, and she is doing what your mom, she's getting paid to do what your mom was doing. um wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. How was your homeschool experience though?
well, because I was so angry with my mother, and I'm an extremely stubborn
Understandably,
human,
yeah.
I
Yeah.
managed to not like I gave her the silent treatment for almost the entire school year. And the only reason I stopped is because one morning I forgot that.
That is such a
It
child
was
innocent thing.
so long. It was like 9 months. And one morning I just forgot that I wasn't speaking to her. And she just went with it. And like a few days later, she was like, "So we're speaking now?" And I was like, "Ugh, whatever, we're speaking now."
Yeah, because it must have
As
been
yeah.
shocking, you know. Yeah, it makes sense. But I think you look back now and you understand and
Oh,
realize
I'm
how you were fighting against a huge system that wasn't built for you.
exactly. Well, I know now in retrospect, and my mother and I talk about it often, that she saved my life. Like I have no question about the trajectory and where I would be in life. Because homeschooling, it's intensive. And by the time, so it was for seventh and eighth grade. And when I got to high school, I had already done everything that they were doing in ninth and 10th grade. So like I come in and I take the placement test and everyone's expecting me to fail. And I was like, I blew it out of the water. So to go from needing to be in the resource room, not ever being able to graduate, to being in high honors and AP. And like I made varsity soccer as a freshman. I got placed into the highest
Yeah.
track. And I'm positive it's because of how intensive the work was for those 2 years. If you imagine homeschooling, it's like, I would say it's accelerated 2 to 3 years that you do of school in 1 year. So I got so far advanced that it was super easy for me because we recognize patterns. We have really good memories. We can memorize things like crazy. So it was by the time that I got to high school and I needed to do those tests, it was like knowing the back of my hand at that point. So it was really simple and easy, um, except for spelling. Like, wow,
Well, that
spelling.
makes sense.
Oh, that makes
That
sense.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Um, I'm wondering if your mom used a specific homeschool curriculum or like you were just like consuming information voraciously.
Uh, I also come from an extremely religious background, which also fought against my whole life. And not to say that there's something wrong with religion, but there is something wrong with extremes and with, um, we were non-denominational, like very strong Christian nationalist evangelicals. And that
Wow.
the part of my family who considers themselves very, very white, which sometimes I have to be like, we're Asian, but
Oh my
sure,
gosh.
Mm.
we could be white.
I
Okay.
was going to say that. It's the desire for the proximity to whiteness, but I didn't want to assume. So I'm really glad you said it first. Because my family, probably my darkest family, is Sicilian, and they also really clung to that white label when they came to the United States.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's this space within the evangelical movement where they take the Bible literally, like the world's 2,500 years old, like just crazy. And even as a 4-year-old, I was like, absolutely not. I don't believe a single thing you are saying to me. Um, And once that happened, I was just like, no. Again, being extraordinarily stubborn. Um, it was being sent on like mission trips pretty much from the time I was 11 until I graduated high school because I didn't have enough faith. So every summer I was sent somewhere to do mission work, and it really just doubled down. Like it made me feel even more strongly in my beliefs of there's definitely a greater force in the world, but it is not racist and it is not paternalistic and it is not all of these things that that the church, that specific church and like kind of vein was doing. But to answer
Yeah.
your question, Sarah, and sorry for the long
No, this is
tangent,
perfect.
it was
No,
a
no.
Christian it was a Christian curriculum from a one of the groups that now
Oh,
has
yes.
become yeah, one of those groups from the 90s that has been pushing homeschooling and the eradication of public schools.
And really pushing
Um,
for more funding going to charter schools and stuff like that. Yeah, we
to
don't
charter
need to
schools
name
and to
names.
homeschooling and things like
We
that.
all know
We're
what
not
they
going
are.
to.
Yes, yes. Yes, and homeschooling. That's crazy. But okay. Anyway, I do love how like it homeschooling can be a good thing for neurodivergent children, but there's all these like if, ands, and buts. And that's how it is for like every
Yeah.
neurodivergent strategy and life experience, I think that there is.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
so I'm remembering
100%.
in the beginning that you said that your career started in education and now you're founding the Peace Institute. So can you bring me from A to B?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's Peak Institute,
Sorry.
PEAC. So we drop the E, but even though we talk about peace, but it stands for Peace, Education, Art, and Culture. And actually, the C at the end changes over time. So we've been communication, culture, and community. Our graphic, the little C changes. But right now, I've been focusing on culture. I would say the 5 years before that, we were really focusing on communication and we've moved into culture, but culture, community, and communication are C's. How did I end up founding that? I was looking for a place to volunteer, and everywhere I went, people were like, that doesn't exist, Rebecca. And I was like, what do you mean it doesn't exist? This is impossible. There has to be something somewhere. And every time I would go somewhere and I'd ask another group and they'd be like, yeah, no, that doesn't fit here. So I I was working on the social skill research project. 2008 comes around, the economy explodes here. We had a national grant, and now we see through this time that grants and funding can disappear. It wasn't something that I realized was possible in 2008. Um, but I got a letter from the governor and from the National Board of Education saying your work and this research, 8 years of a 10-year study, has been incredible, but this is the last check you're going to receive. And the money, it literally says on there, the money has disappeared. I was like, how does money disappear? But beside the point, um, I was suddenly out of a job. I had deferred my enrollment to graduate school to stay on this research project because in my mind it was like the biggest thing happening in the world. I like really thought that this would be the vehicle to like change the world. I get big ideas sometimes. So I
I
was
agree
Which
with
is
like,
a
you
good.
though, so I understand.
so all of a sudden I am without a job. I had just gotten married. My husband at the time also, within a week, we both had multiple jobs and we lost all of them in 1 week. Um, like the recession of 2008 was insane. It was super
So hard.
intense.
I had
And
just turned 18, so I didn't like have any real life consequences, but it sort of felt like I had to defer life starting.
yes, I
Yeah.
And
can't
in some ways I feel like
imagine.
I'm still waiting, but that's not
Yes.
true.
Yeah.
That's just like my little pessimist in my brain. I've got two angels, y'all.
I love it.
It's okay.
Um,
Sometimes you just have to let some steam out. So go ahead. Don't worry. Yeah.
so I had a
You lost
friend.
all your jobs in 1 week,
Yeah.
which is, I mean, it's insane.
So we were looking around or trying to figure out what we're going to do with ourselves. He was in broadcasting in radio. Everything went syndicated at that point, and
Yeah.
so there was like no work for him.
What does that
And
mean?
so he worked in radio. He was a
Mhm.
DJ. And every state, every city, every little town used to have their own radio stations, and they would have their own DJs, and they had local news. And he
Yeah.
was the one who would be like, he had his own show, but he also would go out on the street and talk to people, like man on the street, kind of like interviews. And once 2008, after that, they cut pretty much all local stations, and now there's like
And they
city
became
and state.
syndicated.
Yes, so syndicated is like big huge stations that then get broadcast to all of the local stations, which means that there's only a handful of people giving us information now.
And if
So
you're ever wondering why, like, you're flipping through the channels and they're playing different parts of the same song, that's why.
that's exactly, yes, exactly. And why you only hear this, like there's no diversity of thought or music anymore, and it's because of what happened in 2008. That industry
Wow.
never recovered. And it was also the start of the downfall of print media as well. So there's a lot tied up into the housing crisis of 2008, but it was truly, it was a crisis of work that we never really recovered from, and we don't talk about because we love sweeping things under the rug in this country. So
Toxic positivity keeps capitalism going.
it really does. And that really plays into the work that I do now. So we lose all our work.
Yeah.
I have a friend who is in Japan, and I'm talking to her over Skype because we didn't have these tools back then. Um, and she was like, "Oh, well, don't you like make curriculum?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's what I do. Nobody's hiring for that." And she's like, "Oh, actually, this company that I work for in Japan, we're desperate for a curriculum writer." And I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Yeah, and your husband can be a teacher for us." And I was like, "Really? Okay."
That's such a great friend. Wow. We
Yeah.
need more of her. Yeah.
Yes, we do. And she connected us with the company. We interviewed, never having stepped foot in Japan, never studying Japanese, like nothing. We moved our lives to Japan. And it was supposed to be an 8-month contract and just like something to fill the gap. And I realized the other day that I've been telling people like, oh yeah, I lived in Japan for like 4.5 years. And then I was doing the math and I was like, no, Rebecca, it was like 5 years and 11 months. It was
Wow.
6 years, girl. You were there for 6 years.
That's amazing, though. And it must have been life changing to live outside and then come back. I feel then you start have outsider perspective. And that's interesting. But that's a whole different topic. I mean,
It
yeah,
is a whole
but I
different
think,
topic. But I would say the culture shock of like, I never experienced culture shock going somewhere. It was always coming back to the
yeah,
US.
I had a feeling because I felt the same way moving there and seeing how um, Americans are in an insulator. And it's not their fault. It's a systemic thing. So that's the thing that I'd like to take away from the common rhetoric of Americans are stupid. They're not. It's intentionally done systemically, and there are intelligent. I mean, intelligent Americans and beautiful Americans. It's just yeah. It's just there's an insulator there, and it was very
It's very
yeah.
systemic and very purposeful.
Yeah. Oh, okay. No, because I lived in Chicago for like a few months and it just hit there, and I was very destabilized. I loved it. The people there were so nice, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. But that feeling was very unsettling for me. Yeah.
Yeah, they're just things that we don't know and understand because of how much we consume, like food being in season and not having the excitement of food coming into season and being able to have that. And it's only around for a few weeks. And living in other countries that you eat food that's in season because there isn't another option. There's just such a beautiful part of life that we miss here in America of looking forward to things and understanding the way that cycles work and the way that the planet works. Just something as simple as going into the supermarket.
Yeah. And you live life on hard mode. I tell Sarah that all the time. There's no security blanket. If you're done, you're done.
Yeah.
No one takes care of you, and that's insane.
It truly, truly is. That was one of the biggest things moving to Japan. Having come from being all of a sudden unemployed and about to lose everything, moving to this country where we're not citizens, but they set us up with everything. Our
The
taxes are zero because we
hospitality
did
of other
well,
countries is understated. We don't talk about it in the United States, but when yeah, we treat outsiders like garbage compared to how the rest of the world treats us when we go there. And it's not because Americans are special. It's just because everybody else is kinder or more caring. Or maybe these cultures still remember that we're all stewards of this earth. And white people forgot
exactly.
that because
We're all
we just want to be
stewards of this
masters.
earth.
Yes. It's very, very, very true. It's very unfortunate, but even the way that taxes are set up, insurance is set up, all of it is set
Mm.
up to help you get on your feet. And they're like, oh, this is your first
Acclimate.
time living here. You have zero taxes for the first year. Your health insurance is zero. Like they make it so that you are able to build a base and all of your expenses are connected to your salary. So you're never you're never without. Everyone can take a vacation. Everyone has enough money
Yeah.
to eat out if they want to. Everyone has enough money to buy clothes if they want to. Like, there is never a point where you have to worry about or wonder if things are going to be taken care of.
I wonder if the perks are better in countries that have lower birth rates. But now as I'm saying that, I'm realizing that the US has an extremely low birth rate and we're not giving out any perks. In fact, we're just
Yeah.
criminalizing pregnancy. So that's wild. Anyway, I'm going to move on because I want you to tell me what the Peak Institute does and how people can get
Yes.
involved or help you.
Absolutely. And one thing I will say about living in a culture where you are given, like, you don't have to worry about all of these things,
Yeah.
I had so much mind space. So I created the Peak
Yeah.
Institute in Japan. All of the work that I'm doing now was created there. And I am positive it's because I didn't have all of these things to worry about. Something as simple as safety, not simple, like Japan is so incredibly safe. And the fact that I don't have to worry about my bag, I don't have to worry about who is behind me, I don't have to worry about constantly looking for exits, that amount of mind space, just that alone, on top of the taxes and the insurance and all of these other things. But like, it cannot be stated enough how stressful it is and how much of our mental capacity in this country is wasted on nonsense that we should not have to be worrying about. And it feels very purposeful. So that speaks to the work that I do in social justice and human rights and international relations. Understanding and looking at how we've interacted across the world and having the opportunity to have lived in other cultures. And Japan isn't the only one. I've also lived in Spain and I spent time in Costa Rica, a number of other countries, but those are the three that I've lived in. Wanting to bring back this understanding of, again, our interconnectedness and how do we do that? So there's a lot of work I ended up falling into when I was in Japan were around nuclear weapons. And that was not something I ever thought I would be involved in. Like,
And
where
yet
did
your
this come
hyperfixations
from?
just met perfectly.
Yeah. Yeah. I was
Well,
gonna
it
say.
was because of stories, and it was meeting a survivor, hearing
Yeah.
his story, and his wish. And he was like, I just want the young people today to understand what happened here. And if they understood what truly happened, I don't think anybody would support having these weapons. And I was like, so simple. That makes so much sense. I write curriculum. I work with young people. Let's make a curriculum. Let's do something and we'll get your message out and we'll get rid of nuclear weapons. Like, how about that, Mr. Survivor? And he was like, wow, woman, I just met. That sounds intense and crazy, and I don't think it's possible. He's like, but I'd love to try. So we did. We made a documentary. I started working with the city of Hiroshima and then the Peace Museum and then the government of Japan. And one thing led to another. I kept meeting people. I kept being super audacious with this idea of if we just go and speak to all of the young people in the world. And my idea was, so Japan and Hiroshima is the city of peace, and there's so many people from all over the world. And every time I would look around, I was like, there's people from every continent here already. And I'm positive between like these 12 of us, we could find other people. We could get 100 people, one person in every country, and we could start a campaign. And our idea was like, what would happen if we just asked everyone, like, hey, there's these things called nuclear weapons, and we call them weapons of mass destruction. We've banned all of the other weapons of mass destruction. Don't you think we should ban these too? And like, here is how it impacts our health. Here's how they impact our environment. And we're just saying we think we should have a chance at living life and that a few countries should not be able to destroy our entire planet. And like, do you agree with us?
Yeah.
Yes.
Super simple.
Big agree.
Super simple. And we kind of just ran with it. And everyone was like, you guys are crazy. You're a bunch of young women. Like, who are you? You have no right to be involved in this field. Just so many negative thoughts, so many naysayers. Um, Actually, he is now my ex-husband, but in that time, he also was like, "What are you doing? You know nothing about this. Like, you don't have a right to be in this space making these huge declarations and trying to like." I wanted to make a documentary, and he was like, "You're gonna make a documentary about this? This is gonna be your first one? Like, go make a film about a butterfly and then come back and talk to me." And I was like, "All right, broadcaster, thanks for the help, but if you don't believe in this, sorry, but I do."
Besties, if you're listening and your husband doesn't support your dreams, he's not a good partner. That's
Nope.
awful. I feel like this entire time I've been recording this podcast, my husband has been nothing but supportive and like even when it inconveniences him. So that's wild. That's wild. And I just want every female out there to know that like marrying a man doesn't have to be like it's not a prerequisite to life. Especially because then you end up with
Yeah.
stuff like that. Naysayers
Stuff
in
like
your
that.
own house? I don't think so.
Exactly. Nobody
Which
has time for that.
statistically has been shown to take up years of your life, like if you are in a bad marriage. So just don't do that. Which
Don't do
doesn't
it.
happen for men. Bad marriage or good marriage, years are added to their life because of the domestic labor of whoever he marries. So
But
So
that'll
true.
be a later episode. I'll find some
yeah,
feminist
that's for
author.
another day.
Yes, for another day. PEAC Institute. So we started this campaign, and I'm out there making this documentary, never having done it before. One of the first Kickstarters, I don't know if you remember Kickstarter, like Indiegogo, I think is now what it turned into, but basically you put out in the world your project, and if it gets fully funded, then you get the money, and if you don't get fully funded, you lose all of the money that was pledged. So we did that, and that was wild. We made the money, but boy, was that stressful. Bringing all of that together, this is where I was like, okay, this campaign, it needs to fit somewhere. Like, who can take on this campaign?
Right.
What nonprofit can this live in? Because I'm just a teacher. Like, I just write curriculum. I don't have anything for this to live in. And
Hmm.
every time I would look, so in Japan, they don't have a nonprofit culture. It's just very different. So then I was starting to contact nonprofits in America, and all of the places that I could think of, everyone was like, yeah, no, that's
Gotcha.
not our thing. And they're like, Rebecca, you just have to create it. I was like, I write
That's so
curriculum,
much
people.
work.
I write curriculum. I
Yeah.
don't run organizations. I most certainly don't start organizations, but my hand was forced, so I started it. There's also crazy stories connected with all of that, but very long story long, we managed to come back to the US. We founded the organization. We started working with treaty architects. So we had contacted them, the people who worked on the biological weapon ban and the chemical weapon ban. They're still alive and working and out in the world. They're much older, and they helped us write our treaty and showed us kind of the way that they mobilized and got their treaty to the United Nations and like that whole process. So that's what we did. And again, everybody was like, you guys are crazy. This will never happen, not in a million years. Like, you're wasting all of your life force on this and blah, 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 blah. We bring it in May, and by July 7th, we were able to get it in front of the General Assembly and a vote, and it passed. So 122 countries. Is the fastest moving arms control treaty in history. It entered into force, so that was 2017, and by 2021, there are 50 countries who have changed their constitution and made the treaty a part of their like their national constitution, a part of their international law. So now this is international law, and the reason that that's critical and important is because any corporation, business, community that has any corporate good policy, we're not allowed to be invested in things that are illegal. And now nuclear weapons, as of January 21st, 2021, it's internationally illegal. They are the same as chemical weapons and biological weapons. And there's already been $3.6 trillion divested from that industry. And also, just to give folks a little tip into why we're having conversations about renewing and making sure that we modernize our nuclear stock, is because they want permission to make new weapons because all of this divestment is happening. And that's the conversation that's happening right now. And people need to be aware that when they talk about modernizing, they're talking about building brand new weapons and starting the proliferation all over again. And that can't be allowed to happen. It's not
Yeah.
about fixing or like maintaining, it is about restarting. And that's something that we have to really push back against.
Do you think that's part of why we're
Yes.
seeing this current administration withdraw from the UN?
This current administration is withdrawing from the UN for many, many, many reasons. And this is a small one, but
Word.
yeah.
Okay. So amazing. I forgot about the UN altogether. As they were involved. Um, yeah, amazing. Wow. I that could spawn like a bunch of other questions about like how did you even start talking to them, but I'm gonna leave those because I'm sure that's something you can Google. I don't know.
Yeah. And what matters is that a
Yeah.
woman had an idea and a woman delivered. And
Yeah.
that's what matters.
And you didn't
Yeah.
let them tell you like, oh, that's silly. Um, yeah.
And we focused health, and we focused changing the narrative away from militarism and weapons to health and what it means to be alive and to be a human.
Yeah.
And that's what's most important. So this September 21st, we are launching a global concert to remind the world that we are together. Like, our leaders may be doing insane things, and leaders are going to be doing insane things until we get better leaders. And in order to get better leaders, we need more educated folk. But in
We
order
need
to
to
get
improve the
there,
culture
we
too.
need
Yeah.
community. And the
Yeah.
only way to do that is by building community. And I think the best way to do that is to throw a party. So that's what we're doing
Yeah.
September 21st. And we're
I agree.
inviting everyone to come. There's going to be incredible music acts from all over the world. It's going to be streaming for 48 hours straight at noon in your country, wherever you are in the world. Your region will be featured, and you'll also have an opportunity to check out all of the other regions around the world. So it'll be kind of like New Year's Eve, where at 12 noon, we're moving just across the world. PEAC Institute
That's
and our
amazing.
content will be featured in every hour, which is really incredible and so exciting. So we are encouraging folks to send in videos of themselves saying what peace means to them, or singing a song, doing something that is a part of your culture that you would like to share. And you have the opportunity to be broadcast. Right now, we are at 70 million homes. We're looking to get into 200 million by the end of this week, but things are moving, and like
Wow.
it's just
I love that.
insane,
That's
y'all.
so
Every
fast.
single day, it's like more and more and more people coming on board.
So much
So really excited.
Wow.
admin. You must have
Yes.
so much help, right? Please tell me. No?
I have incredible fellows who are working with us. I just restarted the fellowship program this year, and thank goodness, because this would not be possible without them. So a big, big shout out to our PEAC fellows. They are doing such incredible work out in the world. So they have been extraordinarily helpful, and we are partnering with people all across the globe. So right now there's over 48 different peace organizations that are already involved, and we're inviting lots more to come on. Our big, crazy, audacious idea, because I can't not have them, is there's so many peace organizations and people doing incredible work, and we're almost always overlapping and fighting for the same money. And I say that there's a much better way to do this, especially if we're coordinated. And that was the way that we were successful with the nuclear weapon campaign. It was because we were coordinated. And I really feel like if we can bring all of these groups together, so people who are working on climate, people who are working on race, poverty, war, all of these things also are interconnected, and the solutions require us to work together. So instead of fighting over money, like, let's come together and figure out our solutions. And then that way we are able to actually achieve them because we're doing it together. So
Wow. Hold on. I need to react to what you just said. This is amazing. I think okay, when we talked the first time, I knew you were a big deal. But then as I'm sitting here listening to you talk about how like over 50 countries have had their constitutions changed as a result of your direct action, I'm feeling a lot more motivated for the small actions that I can contribute still. It
We're
feels really
inspired, honestly.
insignificant, one person, but then you're telling me right now, like, actually, I did all this stuff, and yeah, you didn't do it on your own, but an idea,
yes.
and it
Well, and
spiraled out.
that's what I want people to know and truly feel
Yeah.
in our bones. There's all of this talk and all of this money that people feel like has taken over and that we have no control or power over. And I call bullshit and BS on that. That there's absolutely nothing on this planet that a group of people can't overcome. And I've seen it happen over and over and over again. When we look throughout history, it's always a group a small group of people coming together and being like, you know what? We can make a difference. And it's that belief. We were talking about the election in
3.5%
the
rule.
primary in New York. Yes. And it's understanding the snowball effect. Like there's all of this research that's been done now, and we know what those numbers are. So it's also, we can be strategic about it. We can understand what it takes to make things happen in the world, and to know it's not about the money, it's about our ability to talk and connect with one another. And the
Yeah.
other side of that is the stories and how we tell it. That's the most critical part, which is why things like this are just so important and so powerful, because you're giving platforms for people to tell their stories. And that's how we connect. That's how we change the world. We change the world through stories and
Right.
through connection
I
and
agree.
community.
And I
Yes.
think stories are the basis of everything that's important. Religion, movies, music, everything. Yeah.
Everything.
In order to stay connected or get reconnected, though, we have to be safe, which you did say earlier. We have to feel secure, stable. Our nervous system has to be regulated, all that stuff. And obviously, everybody does their own stuff, and I'm asking everybody because I need ideas. No, the last time you spoke to me, you said healing comes in pockets, and I loved that. And I'm wondering what that looks like for you.
Yeah. So pockets or containers, I feel that safety doesn't exist in the world. Safety exists only in our minds. And we have to understand that in order to feel safe, that means that we know what we're walking into. Safety is about the knowledge of what is there and what resources I have to exist in that space. And because we don't have control over anything or anyone. So safety is really relative. Obviously, there are war zones, and that is an extraordinarily unsafe space. And no matter how much thinking and positivity I'm gonna have, I can't like will myself into safety. But I can, because we know people exist inside of war zones. It has to do with
Yeah.
their mental state, right? And again, so safety is about our mental state. Creating psychological safety is critically important. And as a facilitator and a healer, that's what my mission and my job in the world is to create these pockets of time and space for people to enter and experience that psychological safety so they can have a moment of peace, to know what it feels like, so that we can then start to cultivate that more and more on our own. But it's important for the catalyst to be in that safe space. And um as a practitioner, that's what my job is. When I was talking about like pockets or containers, it's
Yeah.
my job to create those for folks.
I love that. That's like practicing mindfulness when you're in a grounded and safe place. It's sort of like anchoring yourself in the positivity as well. That's what you mean by creating containers. Um, well,
About creating
right.
containers, but also in facilitation, how you hold a room, how you invite people into your space. So even the way that you all and your team create a psychologically safe space for people to tell their stories. So you may not even know or realize what you're doing, but you are both practicing, and your team, the way that you send the emails, the way that we do the mic checks, the way that you were so open. You allowed me to come in and be like, "Oh my God, I'm not ready." And you were graceful, right? Like all of that is what I mean when I say creating a container. And as facilitators and storytellers, so many of us do that without even knowing or understanding what we're doing. But once we realize what it is, we can then recreate that in other spaces in our life too.
Wow.
That's
This is
amazing.
feeling really meta for me just because I feel like I'm learning so much from you, and I didn't even mean to, because I'm asking other questions You're amazing. It's like you're speaking to what I need
Yeah.
instead of what I'm saying, but it probably makes sense.
I
This is
appreciate that. Thank
the
you.
I
most
think
I've
I'm the
seen
one who's
Sarah
confused.
inspired, by the way.
Oh, I'm a
Yeah,
huge
it's the
fangirl.
most I've seen her.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you.
Um,
And I think you
yeah,
really needed to hear both of us really needed to hear what we needed to hear from you,
yeah.
because I think
Thank
we're
you.
reaching the 6 month um pivotal point of our podcast, and it's so important to need that push.
Yeah,
I'm very hopeful.
yeah,
But you have those moments where you're like, when is it gonna happen? We're doing such a great job, and like, is one person enough? Is people enough? And we needed that. I think that's
yeah,
important to say.
Yes,
yeah,
you're doing such incredible, important work. And it's hard to continue to push when you don't see the results. But I will tell you this, ladies, results don't come in the beginning. We started working on that campaign. Like, people were like, oh my God, it came out of nowhere. I was like, oh, we started in 2012. It wasn't until 2017 that we got like a big hit. But it was
yeah,
the knowing in my bones that it was important and that it had to happen. And
Yeah.
no one was gonna take me off of that track. Um, and it's that, like, you know in your gut, like, you can feel it,
Yeah.
and always listening to that and that being your North Star and allowing that to be like, all right, how do I navigate this? I navigate this by allowing this to always be my guiding light. And
Amazing.
you will make it. Because this is such important work. And there are so many
Yeah.
of us out there that feel alone. Like, I felt alone most of my life. And it really wasn't until
Yeah.
maybe two years ago that I actually started talking about this in public. Um,
Yeah. Thank you.
I feel that there's a lot of my friends from Japan and from some other places on that side of the world who, once you are globalized, let's say, or like have a little bit bigger of a lens, then everything inside the country and the like gender norms that are very
All of it.
typical and are like used to feel super comfy are now like, excuse me, what? You want what
Exactly.
now? It's like, no.
So, Rebecca, this was great. I loved this. Sarah couldn't couldn't stay in for internet issues, but have us like, how can people connect with you? How can they reach you? Let us know.
Yeah. Well, Rebecca Irby on LinkedIn, but our website is PEAC Institute, so PEAC Institute.org. All of the information about our fellowships, as well as the incredible Pause for Peace, so you can submit your videos right there online. And it will be
Yes.
broadcast right now up to 70 million homes, but I really think we're going to get the 200
Those.
million. So fingers crossed,
Yes.
but a very large footprint and way for us to connect with one another. So yes, those are peakinstitute.org, Rebecca Irby on LinkedIn, and my other moniker where you can find me is Equity Doula.
Excellent. This was so great. Thank you for giving us some of your time, Rebecca. I've had a wonderful time again after the mic check to do this interview with you. And I hope to see you again. I hope this is not the last time.
I hope so too. Please be in touch. Thank you
Will
so
do.
much.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Thanks for being here. If you want to connect with the Neurodivergent Report, you can find us at ND Report Pod on Instagram, Threads, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, Substack, etc. If you're looking to support the show, the best thing you can do is subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. Please do that.
And hey, if you want to check out more about us, visit our website at ndreportpod.com. And you can also go there if you want to be a guest contributor on the show.
Till next time, be well, do good. Bye.